Hmm. Okay, I got you.
Just think why I should take the Bible seriously for the exact same reason I don't think we
Oh,
should take the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or any other holy book,
understood.
because they all claim the inerrant word of God.
Yeah, of course they do.
You determine which one is actually the inerrant word of God.
Well, yeah, they all. Every worldview or faith or religion claims to be the absolute one. There's no disputing that. And the Muslim will claim that the Quran is the word of God, and the Christian will say the Bible is the word of God.
Why do you claim the Bible is?
Pardon? Why do I claim the Bible is the word of God? Was that your question, Peter?
Yeah. Interesting.
Because I believe it stands.
Interesting.
I believe that the Bible stands up to scrutiny.
I know that's what you believe. My question is, why do you believe that?
Because I think it's demonstrably true.
The Bible contains.
Yeah, I believe that the Bible demonstrably stands up to the scrutiny that's been leveled against it. It has done so pretty amazingly the last few thousand years of that.
When the Bible talks flat, covered in dome, you think that's true?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
And covered with a dome, standing on pillars. Do you think that's accurate?
Talking about Christianity? Sounds like
about the.
You're cutting in and out, Peter.
So it's in my end. It's probably your internet that's a bit wonky.
Okay, yeah.
When the Bible claims that the Earth is flat,
where?
When the Bible claims that the Earth is
where
flat,
does it claim that?
And covered with a dome, standing on pillars, and it is unmovable.
Okay, this isn't Joe, but where does it say it's flat?
Do you think it's
I don't see where
accurate?
it says it's flat.
It says it implicates it on several occasions.
Where?
The first one that there is a tree that you all the kingdoms of the world, and another one is a mountain that is high enough you can see all. So do you think?
Do I think what?
Think that the mountain? Do you think that there is a mountain that is so high that you can see every kingdom on the planet? Would that imply a flat Earth?
I don't think so. No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
So when you're in Canada, you would have a straight line of sight from a mountain where you could see a kingdom in Asia.
I can see into what? Sorry.
If you're in Canada,
yeah, I am in Canada.
Could you climb a mountain and then have a straight and then have a straight line of sight to a kingdom in Asia?
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Can you see Japan? Can you see Japan from Canada?
No, you can't.
Why can't you?
Because the Earth is round and spherical. And but there's also limitation of sight. I can only see so far.
Yeah. So could you see Japan from anywhere in Israel?
No. For the same reasons.
So why does the Bible say you can?
I don't know where it says that you can. Unless the text isn't being literal.
To me, it's mind-boggling.
Unless the text that you're reading isn't literal and you're taking it literal, then you're maybe making a mistake with genre.
Well, one of them is a retelling of a dream, but it still provides the possibility that you can see.
Then you may be confusing texts and genres there, Peter.
Why would
not everything in the Bible is meant to be taken on the face of it literally? And if you take everything in the Bible literally, then you're a fool.
Hold on. Why would the Bible imply, even if it's a dream, that the earth is flat when it's not?
I can't speak for that. I'm not the one who wrote it.
But you believe it, right?
I have to believe it within the context and genre that it's written in, yes.
Yeah, so when it says that the earth rests on pillars and that it's unmovable, that's accurate.
That's obviously figurative.
How is that figurative?
But what pillars does the earth rest on?
Yes, that's my question.
Well, that's what I mean. There's no way that you can take that literally in any sensible sense. That's just nonsensical.
No, okay. So, but what would be the figurative explanation for that then?
Maybe it's resting on gravity. Maybe it's resting on some pillar that we can't see that cuts it. I don't know. I mean, my imagination really doesn't allow myself to stretch that much.
But you still believe it? Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, it's on the face of it, I believe it to the extent that it's meant to be taken.
So when God placed the earth on pillars, there must be pillars. Even though we know that there's no pillars that the earth rests on.
Some figurative sense, maybe.
Yes, but the earth doesn't rest on a figurative pillar either.
Okay, well.
In fact, it doesn't even rest because it's in constant movement.
That's actually true.
And the Bible says it's unmovable.
And the earth constantly moves. So you're saying is I'm facing with the glaring. So you're saying in essence
that's
I'm
one
faced
of the
with
things.
A glaring contradiction.
That's one of the things. There are a few things that are even more silly. I mean, do you know what a locust is?
Yes.
Can you tell me what it is?
It's a tree.
A locust.
LOCUST.
Locust is a tree?
Pardon?
Yeah. Yes.
You just asked. I just said. Well, the Bible says a locust is a tree. To my knowledge.
So when God the plague of locusts to Egypt, he sent trees?
Okay. Sorry, you're talking about insects.
Okay. What's an insect?
A creature typically with some antenna, 6 legs, and sometimes wings.
Great. You got it right. So why does the Bible say that locusts have 4 legs?
Where does it say that?
How do you not know any of this?
No, I've read the Bible.
You claim that you believe the Bible, but you've never come across these things?
I have, I don't recall. But then again, the Bible is about a 2,000-page book, and I don't remember everything in the Bible that I've read in the Bible.
No, but wouldn't it? So when you read the Bible cover to cover, as I have twice, and you come across a verse that is demonstrably not true, wouldn't you remember that you read that?
I don't. If I have it, it's not coming to mind. But like me and I don't usually when it comes to numbers in the Bible, I don't. My mind doesn't typically gravitate towards numbers when I read numbers in the Bible. Even when reading the Book of Numbers, it doesn't usually gravitate towards numbers in the Book of Numbers. My mind usually remembers things about principles, morals, stories, power, miracles, so on and so forth.
Okay. I looked it up. It's Leviticus 11:20 to 23. All flying insects that creep on all fours.
Leviticus 11, what was the verses?
20.
20 to what?
20 to 23.
Here we go. Here it says, so it's all flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. They are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours that you may eat, that you may join legs for hopping on the ground. Of these you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. But other flying insects have 4 legs you are to regard as unclean. All right. So that's demonstrably unscientific.
So how many insects have 4 legs?
0.
Exactly.
So the Bible got
this is God talking.
So you're saying the Bible's getting basic biology and insects wrong.
Yeah. I know what it's referring to, by the way, but
what is it referring to?
That's even sillier. It's referring to bats.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
The Bible thinks that bats are birds in one verse, and it thinks that it's a bat is an insect in this particular verse. And this is because
that's really ignorant on Moses' part. Then
so insects swarm, so do bats.
Right.
Therefore, the Bible thinks that bats are insects. In the other verse, it states that you can eat all birds except bats because obviously birds fly, bats fly, so bats must be birds. And this is the infallible word of God. You're blaming Moses, who got this dictated from his God and wrote it down. Although Moses never existed, because we already know this, that Moses never existed.
Is it a good translation from the Hebrew to the English?
It says the exact same thing in the Hebrew as well, yeah.
Okay. I'm not versed in Hebrew by any stretch of imagination.
I do a show on the Bible where we have 2 people who speak Hebrew.
Okay.
One is a scholar of the original Tanakh and the Torah.
Hey, have you ever had Bart Ehrman on your show, Peter?
I haven't. Arn Ra has had him on several times.
Really?
Last time was only a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Interesting. I would love to talk to Ehrman one time.
I don't think that you are qualified yet to talk to him.
Yeah, that's
Honestly, you need to learn a lot more about your Bible and a lot more about Bible history. Because I asked you a simple question: why should we believe the Bible? And you can't come up with a reason, whereas I can come up with several reasons why I shouldn't believe it, because the Bible's demonstrably wrong about things, especially when when it literally gives you what God says. If God doesn't know how many legs insects have, I don't think he created them,
Mm.
because he would know, right?
You would think so.
Yeah. So
You would think so.
there's no good reason to believe the Bible, because we can already show it's wrong on pretty much every claim it makes about the natural world.
What about the claim about everything produces after its own kind?
Yeah, there's no such thing as a kind.
Really?
No, there's no apologist so far, no apologetic institution so far has been able to define what a kind is.
Well, someone just told me that what it means. Kind means family.
Kind means what?
Family, like canine, feline, mammal.
Yeah,
Classification.
family is an outdated concept, but so a dog can give birth to a fox?
No.
It would be after its kind, right? If it's family.
But just kind of this naturally. Does a dog ever breed with a fox?
No. You said that everything gives birth after its kind,
Yeah, I said everything.
and kind is, and you
I
said
everything
kind is a
produces
family.
everything. Right. That doesn't mean it. That doesn't
Yes,
mean
and
that doesn't mean, Peter, that a dog will produce a fox.
so fox is not part of the dog kind.
That's not what I said.
I'm using mere logic.
No,
if,
you're
if you
using
state
twisted
if you
rhetoric.
state
You're using
hold
twisted
on,
rhetoric.
no, if you state that kind means family, then it is possible by definition for a dog to give birth to a wolf, a fox, and a dingo, because they're all part of the dog kind. So it wouldn't be weird for a dog to give birth to a fox or a dingo, because it would still give birth after its kind. Unless kind doesn't mean family.
Classification. So a dog produces a dog, a fox produces a fox, a wolf produces a fox.
So dog and fox are different kinds.
They're in the same family, but they don't mate naturally.
Yeah, but they're not in the same kind.
How do you figure?
Because if a fox produces a fox, then fox is a kind. And because if foxes wouldn't be a kind, a fox could give birth to a dog.
Is it
and a dog could give birth to a dingo, and a wolf could give birth to a coyote, and a.
Is it possible?
It wouldn't work,
for
right?
A dog and a fox to mate and produce?
No.
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 Okay.
It's possible, though, to. Have you heard of the silver fox experiment?
No. What is it?
The silver fox experiment is. This has been done in Russia over several decades, where they breed silver foxes for their fur.
Okay.
The fur of a silver fox is extremely valuable. The problem is a silver fox is extremely aggressive.
Oh, how
So
aggressive?
there was this silver fox breeder who thought, you know what I'm going to do?
Hmm.
I'm going to pick the most docile pups from every litter, and I'm going to breed with those. And he did that over several decades.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up with silver foxes that are quite tame. In fact, they are as tame as a dog. And the weird thing is, while he was breeding, the dog's ear, the fox's ears changed,
Really?
the fur changed, and it started looking more and more like an actual dog.
Mm,
Although it's not a dog because it couldn't be a dog because
Right.
it's still a silver fox
gotcha.
because that's what its parents were, right?
Right.
So within biology, it's still a silver fox, but it's now an entirely new species because now it looks and acts like a dog. The fur got different colors.
Hmm.
So he ended up with an animal that was docile but didn't look like a silver fox anymore. It looked more like a dog. As I said, the ears became floppy. It got all these characters that the dogs have.
Hmm.
It started wagging its tail when it's happy. So basically, what happened is this guy proved how humans domesticated dogs.
Hmm.
He just did the entire thing, and that just took him a few decades to get from a very aggressive fox to a docile animal that he could domesticate.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it's still, you classify it within biology when it's, we use clades these days. So it is still in the clade of the silver foxes.
Hmm.
But it's a new animal.
Understood.
It's an entirely new species. They don't even look alike anymore.
Understood.
And you can look this up.
I believe you.
So and we're still back because if kind is not a family, then therefore it would logically follow that a dog cannot give birth to a fox or a wolf or a coyote.
Right.
Because a dog would give birth to a dog,
Mm-hmm.
which would imply that kind is species, but that also doesn't work.
Hmm.
Because if kind would mean species, then the story of Noah's Ark could never have happened. Because Noah would have had millions of animals on his ark.
Oh, he only took two.
And there would be of every kind. So 2 wolves, 2 coyotes, 2 dingoes, 2 foxes.
Not sure all those animals existed back when he was. Some may be existing
If they
now
didn't,
that didn't exist back then.
If they didn't exist, they couldn't be here today because every animal gives birth after its kind, so there wouldn't be new kinds, right?
Yeah, but is it possible that
That
one
can't
of them
work.
is it possible they may have been descended from some of the ones in the ark?
It couldn't be according to the Bible if they give birth after their kind, and kind means species. That means that a cow will always give birth to a cow and to a cow and to a cow. You wouldn't get buffaloes. You wouldn't get.
I would agree that that's true. That a cow can't never.
Okay, same thing. Same thing would work for dogs, right? If Noah had 2 dogs, he would never get 2 wolves. He would never get
Right.
dogs, or foxes, or
Mhm.
coyotes. So there's no
So
definition for
basically, on the
kind
face of it,
that
you're saying
works.
that Noah's Ark is just an absurd story on the face of it.
We know it's an absurd story because we've got evidence against it.
So what was the
We have civilizations that continued from before to after the flood without even noticing the flood.
Mm.
Egypt is probably the funniest one, because you'd think that if the flood started somewhere in Israel and it was worldwide, that the Egyptians would get flooded, but they didn't. Japan didn't get flooded. Japan doesn't even have a flood myth because it's never been flooded. China has dynasties that go all across time from before to after the flood, uninterrupted. The Great Pyramid at Giza would have been built after the flood, when, even according to the fastest population growth, you would have 155 people on the planet. Do you think 155 people created the Great Pyramid of Giza?
No, heck, it would be a hell of a lot more than that.
Yes. So
Thousands.
another thing the Bible got wrong.
Pyramid of Gaza.
Yeah.
Thousands.
So another thing the Bible got wrong.
The Bible said only 150 people created the Tower of Gaza?
No.
Pyramid of Gaza?
No. I said if the flood happened, at the time the pyramid was built, there could be a maximum of 155 people on the planet.
How do you figure?
Because we have 3 couples that have to procreate. And within about 100 years, there's no way of getting more people. So, no matter where you look in the Bible, it gets things wrong. It talks about Moses. It gives us a specific timeline in which he existed when he was in Egypt. There's no record of Moses whatsoever. Then you've got this incredibly stupid story that Moses spent 40 years in the desert with about 1 million people. And estimates go as far as even 2 million people if you account for children. That means that 2 million people wandered through a desert and left nothing behind. No pottery, no campsites, no nothing. That's impossible. We find complete civilizations that only had a couple of hundred people, a couple of thousand people. We find all of their stuff, even when there were nomads. But from the Exodus, nothing. And then God directed Moses during the Exodus. The distance from Egypt to the point where they crossed the sea is a 14-day walk, which means that the people who arrived first were already there long before the last ones left Egypt. But instead, they wandered through the desert for 40 years. God needs a better GPS system. I mean, if he can't find his way through a desert where they could just have followed a single path along the coast to get to the point where they could cross. It's so incredibly stupid. I'm lost for words.
I hear you.
The Tower of Babel, we know that never existed. Because the Tower of Babel, to this day, still exists. The remains of it still exist.
Okay.
And that was a tower built by Hammurabi with a completely different purpose than the Bible states.
Mm.
And how do we know this? Because we have writings from that time.
Mm.
Funny enough, they didn't get washed away in the flood either. It's nothing in the Bible adds up.
Nothing?
Literally nothing. No, nothing.
Not even the life and time of Jesus?
There is no mention of Jesus other than in the Bible.
So Josephus never mentioned it. Ignatius never mentioned him.
Josephus wasn't even alive when Jesus was alive.
Yeah, but he still has tested for him.
How can Josephus have witnessed Jesus when he
I didn't
wasn't
say that.
alive
I didn't say
until
witness. I
after?
said attested. It's not the same thing, is it, Peter?
Yes, which means that there is no mention of Jesus during his lifetime.
But you do
Not a
realize that,
single written word.
Peter, you do realize that the common way of recording, if you will, back then was mostly oral, right? It's mostly an oral history.
Yes, and I also know that there were a lot of people who were able to write.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
you've
I think
got
a lot-
the
there-
entire, you have the entire Old Testament already written down,
Mm-hmm. That's true.
and we have from Jesus' time, we have historians who were writing what was happening in the region.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a list about 100 historians who were writing about the part of Israel where Jesus was in, and none of them mentions Jesus.
That'd be kind of weird. That
There is no mention of Jesus outside of the Bible.
even if that were,
And when you talk about
even if that were
Josephus or
true, that doesn't mean
Tacitus,
what the Bible's saying is wrong or infactual.
it means that there's no record of Jesus.
There's no record of Jesus. So by that logic, then
Yes,
there's no record of Darwin. There's no record of Muhammad. There's no record of Aristotle. There's no record of.
There is a record of Darwin. There's a record of Darwin. There are pictures of Darwin.
Okay. Let's take Darwin off the table for
Photographs.
this conversation. So there's no record of Nero. There's no record of Muhammad. There's no record of Caesar. There's no record.
We have
Pilate.
pictures
There's no record
of we have pictures of
There's no
Nero.
record of
we have a completely-
Moses. There's no record of King
There's
David.
completely
There's no record of
record-
Solomon. There's no record of.
Hold on. Stop rambling for a minute.
I'm not
For
rambling.
Nero, we
I'm
have a
making
complete
point.
written history.
Hmm?
No, yes, you're making a point by listing all of these people, all of whom we have written records about.
Yeah, but how
Not
can I
by
trust
one
written records?
person,
If you can trust those written records, why can't you trust the written
Because-
records of the Bible?
because we have records from multiple people in complete different countries or different regions talking about one specific person, and the stories they write down line up.
Okay, so let's give your
That's
example.
how we know we can trust it. This is how history works.
Okay. I'll go with that, Peter. Let's go with Muhammad for a moment. Outside of the Quran, what evidence is there for Muhammad's existence?
His grave?
Yeah, but that could be there could be a million people named Muhammad. I mean, it's a fairly common Arab name.
The guy was buried in public. The grave is still there, and his bones are still there. What are you talking about?
Well, there is evidence for where Jesus was laid too in Golgotha.
There's no evidence where Jesus was laid. We don't have Jesus's tomb, even though people claim they have. We don't.
Okay, what about the Shroud of
We
Turin?
can't know for
How
sure
do you dismiss
because
that?
there's the Shroud of Turin is a fake.
How do you know that?
Because it's been carbon dated.
Ah,
And the history of the shroud is also documented. And funny enough, the furthest we can go back in the history, in the written down history of the shroud, co-aligns with the date given by the carbon dating.
which is how. So
Isn't that weird?
what do they carbon date?
It's
the
as if
Shroud?
it was made then, with material from then.
Say that again.
I think it's from 1300 something.
No, so it's at least
1300s,
1300
somewhere in
years
the
after
1300s,
the
I think.
fact.
I'm not entirely sure.
No, sorry. If it's 1300 years
Yes.
after 1300 AD, which one?
I've been, Rob.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. This is going to be funny. I've been to 2 churches in Europe.
Okay.
Do you know what those have in common?
No.
They both have the foreskin of Jesus.
Wait. Oh my
And
god.
they're not the only
Oh my
ones.
god.
Because there's 5 other foreskins of Jesus in Europe.
Oh
You
my
can go
God.
see them.
I gotta get myself to European church.
Is that
That's hilarious.
is that evidence for Jesus, you think?
Absolutely not.
Do you think it's evidence for Jesus?
No, it's not. There's no,
No.
way you could have.
Why is the
There's no way
shroud of
that foreskin
Hold on,
can preserve for
The
2,000 years?
shroud-
That's absurd. That's ridiculous.
What do you mean it can't?
You can't preserve
We've got
skin for
soft
2,000
tissue.
years.
We've got soft tissue from which are 15 million years old. Discovered by a young Earth creationist who panicked because this didn't line up with her
His
beliefs,
worldview, right?
but it also didn't line up with
The Bible.
the knowledge currently at the time for people who believed in evolution.
No, what I'm saying is a decomposed
And yet she was right.
body.
She had some
Does not
dinosaur
preserve.
soft tissue, and it was dated. Have you heard of bog people?
I've heard of what people?
Hello?
Yeah. Have I heard of what people?
Bog, B-O-G, bog people.
No.
Bog people.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
B-O-G,
No, I've
bog
not heard of these
people.
Kind of people. Who are what? Go explain yourself.
People that drowned in a bog people that drowned in a bog or a swamp.
No, I'm not.
Perfectly preserved.
I'm not-
Thousands of years old.
Okay.
Older than Jesus.
Okay.
Have you heard of Egyptian pharaohs?
Nope.
Have you heard of Tutankhamun?
No.
You haven't heard of King Tutankhamun,
No.
the most famous discovery in Europe, in Egypt, I mean?
No.
He's an Egyptian pharaoh who predates Jesus by centuries.
Well, every pharaoh
Completely preserved.
by centuries.
He's in the Egyptian museum.
Okay, but I would say
And
every
he's not
pharaoh
even the
predates Jesus
oldest.
by thousands of years. So this is kind of a moot point to me.
So we have preserved complete pharaohs, but
Well, that's
foreskins
'cause-
couldn't be
that's
preserved,
'cause-
you think?
It's good. They could preserve for a while because the mummifications that the Egyptians were into preserved bodies for long periods.
Yes. And the foreskins are preserved as well.
Okay.
All of
but-
them.
Yeah, for Egyptians that would make sense, but the average person did like if you're buried in a tomb or buried in a grave. Your
You
body.
think
would not
you think
preserve.
Jesus was just an average person?
Oh, of course not. No, that's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
You think Jesus was just an average?
No, that's what I'm saying. You're
Oh,
misunderstanding.
so if they had
You're
Jesus'
misunderstanding what I'm
foreskin,
saying. You're misunderstanding.
that wouldn't be important enough.
No, it would be you're misunderstanding. Just listen for a second without
You're
interrupting.
contradicting yourself. We have methods to preserve body parts.
No, I don't dispute that.
The Catholic Church wholesales in body parts.
Oh yeah. We're here. What I'm saying is normally, most bodies from 2,000 years ago are dead and gone and that did not preserve.
Ah, okay. So impressions from bodies would also not survive, right?
Impression for body could survive, yeah, but that's not the same thing as the body from him or herself.
It would be.
But that would still be evidence.
It would be on an organic. It would be on an organic cloth, which wouldn't survive, right?
I don't know. This is not my field of expertise.
That's your problem. Not a lot is in your field of expertise.
Well, there's a lot to know, Peter. I can only know so much. My interests aren't always the same as yours. So you have to be okay with that.
What I find staggering is that the most important thing in your life, which is the Holy Bible, and you haven't read it in depth. You haven't tried to read it comprehensively.
According to you.
No, you just showed me that because I mentioned several things. The fact that you would read that insects have 4 legs and not think, hey, hold on, that's not right. I mean, a 5-year-old would know that an insect has 6 legs.
Right, but my point, but I also mentioned to you that the things that stood out to me more in the Bible were the stories of morals, power, principle, prophecy, and authority. But that doesn't seem to stand out to you for some reason.
Okay.
So maybe you need.
So the fact that Jesus was prophesied and that his name.
So
yeah. So the fact that Jesus was prophesied and that his name would be.
Did you study
that his name would be Emmanuel?
Pardon?
That Jesus would be named Emmanuel?
Yeah, God with
that us. Jesus would be named Emmanuel, which never happened.
So Peter, we're not here.
It would be his name.
Peter, stop it.
It wouldn't be a title.
Peter,
wouldn't be a title.
Peter, stop for a second. When you speak, I try to listen.
Go ahead.
When I speak, you interrupt. It's really rude.
Yes, but that was because you started talking when I wasn't finished yet.
Well, it's hard to know when you finish because you talk for a long time.
But it happens.
Yeah. Okay, may I speak?
I mentioned one thing.
I'm mentioning one thing with a few things that
you cut out. Hold on, you need to repeat that. You cut out.
May I speak without interruption right now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So, have you read the prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah with Matthew and Revelation in context and come to some sort of conclusion that Emmanuel never happened? And if so, how did you come to that conclusion and on what basis do you stand with your conclusion? I'm finished. Peter, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. So let's do it slightly differently. Name me a prophecy that you think was fulfilled. And read out the prophecy and then tell me how it was fulfilled.
Okay, one sec. That's fair, but if you're gonna do that, then I'm gonna pull up Isaiah. A couple things from Isaiah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I don't want to trick you into something. I just want to
No, but if you're gonna ask me specific questions, then you have to give me time to answer.
go through a prophecy.
Okay, so this is
I have no problem with giving you time to answer.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Not at all.
Okay, this is from Isaiah 9. Can you hear me clearly, Peter?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit,
Can you
but
hear me clearly now?
I think I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
All right, so this is from Isaiah 9
Yeah.
from the NIV, okay? This is from Isaiah 9, 1 to 6. I'm going to read
Yes, I can hear
six
you.
verses. So, nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who are in distress. In the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, but in the future, he will honor Galilee of the nations by the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Of those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you, as people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boots will be used in battle, and every garment rolled in blood, and we will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given. The government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And I'll just read one more verse, 7 verses altogether. Verse 7 of Isaiah 9:6. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord will accomplish this. And then I'm going to read Jesus fulfilling that in actually wait, Jesus fulfilled Isaiah 6:1, but I'll get there too. Jesus reads the scroll.
What did Jesus hold on. What did Jesus fulfill? Because you lost me there for a second.
But he was born.
A child is born. 6 says, a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Right.
That's his name.
Jesus fulfilled all of
Not
those
a title. It's his name. That's his name. Not a title, not a function. His name shall be called.
Yeah. Wonderful Counselor.
Right?
Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Mm-hmm. That's a weird name to give a boy.
Yeah.
But so now you're gonna read me a verse where a boy was born and was called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
And that seems to contradict Matthew 1:25, doesn't it? Matthew 1:25 says, after she had given birth, she was to call the boy's name Jesus. Matthew 1:25 said that,
So that's a different name, isn't it?
well, Jesus means he who saves
Is that a
people
different
from
name?
his sins. So yeah, that is a different name.
So it's not a fulfilled prophecy.
Or it's complementary.
No. If you have a prophecy and say, okay, this will be the child's name, and then a child is born and gets a different name, that's not the child we're talking about, right?
I can see how you would say that, but I think the language that Isaiah is using is a little different than what you're saying.
Yeah. The thing with a prophecy is, if it is a prophecy, it can only point to one specific occurrence.
Okay, I have
And
one.
when
That
it is
I
specific,
can point to. I can give you one right now that
it names the name that the
yes.
child is
I
going
can give you one right now that
to get.
Jesus fulfilled.
Go ahead.
It's Jesus in Luke 4.
Go ahead.
14. It's from, I read from 16 to 19. And Jesus quotes Isaiah 61, 1-3 in 18 to 19 of Luke 4. It says, and he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up. And as was his custom, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and he stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given him, and he unrolled the scroll and found.
Hold on. What? Rob,
Yeah.
hold on.
Okay.
What verse are we reading now?
We're reading Luke 14, 16 to 19, and 18 to 19 of Luke 4.
Luke
Jesus
14,
quotes Isaiah 61.
Luke 14, 16 to 19.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Jesus replied, a certain man prepared a great banquet and invited many guests. That's Luke 14, 16.
Luke 4, 16. And he came to Nazareth where he'd been brought up. That's Luke 4,
4, 16. Oh, sorry. I said you.
What did you say?
I heard you say 14, 16. My bad.
Oh, no. It starts at, but there's a. Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Jesus came to Nazareth where he had been brought up.
There we go.
As was his custom, he entered the synagogue on the Sabbath, and when he stood up to read, the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at.
Continue.
Okay. Okay, there we go. The Spirit of the Lord, he found the place where it was written, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to release the oppressed. To release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.
Right.
Okay. Jesus is reading this.
Yes, he's reading this. He's also quoting Isaiah 61, 1-3.
Okay.
And that's the text that he's quoting in Luke 4, 18 and 19.
You broke up a little.
Okay, he's quoting.
So Jesus is reading something.
Yeah, he's reading from Isaiah 61, 1-3 in that text.
Yeah. So how's that a prophecy?
Well, he's literally fulfilling prophecy in the reading of it. and he
What
accomplished everything.
what is he fulfilling?
Pardon?
What is he fulfilling?
Well, him just by him reading it, he said, look at the verses following. And he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant. That's verse 20 of Luke 4. And sat down. And the eyes of all the synagogue were fixed.
How's that a prophecy?
I'm getting there. If you just listen,
how's that a
and
prophecy?
if you listen,
If
you'll learn.
Jesus was,
If you listen, you learn. If you speak, you end up being foolish. Right now.
well, I'll ask you a different question.
I'm
In the
answering
prophecy,
the
is
question.
there a mention that Jesus is going to read this?
Pardon?
What is the prophecy that Jesus is fulfilling?
Well, if you just let me speak without interruption, you'll get the answer.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay,
But I didn't hear you say what the prophecy was.
Sure. Okay, so verses 20 to 25 of Luke 14 give us the answer to that question. And he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant and sat down. And the eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed upon him. And he began to say, today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. And all spoke well of him and marveled at his gracious words that were coming from his mouth. And they said, is this not Joseph's son? And he said to them, doubtless you will quote this proverb to me, physician, heal yourself. What we have heard at Capernaum, do here in your hometown as well. And he said, truly I say to you, no prophet is acceptable in his own hometown. But in truth, I tell you, there were many widows in Israel in the days of Elijah, where the heavens were shut up for 3 years and 6 months, and a great famine came over the land. Actually, it's going to finish till 30. And Elijah was sent to none of them, but only to Sepharth in the land of Sidon, to a woman who was a widow, and there were many lepers in Israel at the time of the prophet Elisha. None of them were cleansed, but only Naaman the Syrian. When they heard these things, and all the synagogue were filled with wrath. And they rose up and drove him out of the town and brought him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built so they could throw him down the cliff. But passing through their midst, he went away. So, first of all, Jesus actually says in verse 21 of Luke 4 that the prophecy has been fulfilled and they're hearing of it. But what Jesus was saying is, I am...
Yes, but what was the prophecy? You still haven't.
I'm getting.
You still haven't told me what the prophecy was, and where in the Bible is this prophecy?
Okay, well, I did answer that initially from Isaiah 61 1-3. Jesus quotes Isaiah 61 1-3 in verses 18 and 19 of Luke 4, where he says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because He has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and
hold on. I can't keep up. I can't
set the liberty of those who are oppressed."
I can't keep up. Hold on, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob.
Yeah.
I can't keep up. Isaiah what?
Isaiah 61 verses 1-3.
What was the verse in Isaiah?
Those 3 verses.
61
1-3.
1. Okay. Let me at least give me time so I can pull up the verses.
Sorry, my mistake.
Isaiah 61.
Mm-hmm. First 3
The Spirit of the Lord God is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord. No mention of Jesus yet. To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of God's vengeance, to comfort all who mourn, to console all mourners in Zion, to give them a crown of beauty for ashes, of joy for mourning, and garment of praise for spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that He may be glorified. I see no mention of Jesus reading any of this.
The mention of Jesus. I'm talking about Jesus fulfilling the prophecy mentioned in Isaiah.
What was the prophecy? What was the prophecy? I read verses 1 to 3. What was the prophecy in verses 1 to 3? Because I must have missed it.
Oh, it was the foretelling of what Jesus.
There's no prophecy there.
There is. It's prophesying what Jesus, who Jesus will be, and what he will accomplish.
Where does it say that?
Oh, it doesn't say that. You understand that that's the truth of the matter when you read Luke 4, because Jesus accomplishes these things.
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that, but it says it. What's the prophecy?
That Jesus is the one who the Spirit of the Lord is upon, because the Lord anointed Jesus to proclaim good news to the poor.
This doesn't even talk about a person, let alone it talks about Jesus specifically.
But Jesus is speaking in Luke 4.
It doesn't mention anyone reading this.
You know that it's prophetic because Jesus is... Oh, man. It's just context, Peter. This is common sense.
It doesn't mention... It doesn't mention... Hold on. I'm using my common sense, and nowhere does it say that someone will read it and that this someone will be someone special. No, it doesn't say that anywhere in the text.
No, you're right. It doesn't. But you understand that both of those things are true by reading Luke 4.
Prophecy. Hold on. A prophecy means that it would say that this specific part of the text would be read by ... and it doesn't say that, so it's not a prophecy.
Well, it says in Luke that Jesus read that scroll and said that the prophecy was fulfilled in their hearing.
It says in Luke that Jesus read it.
Yeah,
it says in Luke that Jesus read it, but the part that Jesus read...
Yeah, and it said that the prophecy was...
Yes, but what was the prophecy then?
It says that in Luke 4:21.
What was the prophecy that got fulfilled?
That Jesus was the person that Isaiah was talking about.
Where does Isaiah say that it's talking about a person? Because it doesn't.
Well, if it's not talking about a person, that would be kind of a strange rhetoric for that particular text.
It's talking about a year. It's talking about a year of God's favor.
But who's
and it's talking about multiple people, the mourners. It's talking about multiple people, the mourners in Zion. And it talks about a garment of praise for a spirit in despair. And it talks about oaks of righteousness. It never talks about one specific person. So the prophecy is not about one specific person. There's no mention of a person.
Well, let alone the Spirit of the Lord is upon
the name of the person. Let alone the name of the person.
Me as a person.
What are you referring to?
Well, it says in one of the verses, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Who is the me? The me has to be a person.
Where does it say that?
What? Say what?
Where in Isaiah 61 does it talk about a me?
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, does it not? Isaiah 61:1.
Where does it say that?
Pull this up. All right. Spirit of the Lord is upon
Hold on.
Spirit
I need
of the
to
Lord
see
God
whether or
is
not I
upon
can get
me. So it's the first verse of 61 of Isaiah. Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Well, who's the me? Is it Isaiah? Is it Jesus? Is it captives?
Well, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me is referring to someone who is writing this, not someone in the future.
Could it be both?
No.
Why not?
Because if I'm writing something and I say the Spirit of the Lord God is on me, it means on me, Peter.
But
Not
then
on
how do you
anyone
square
else.
that with Luke 4? Luke
Not on
4?
Rob. You don't, which is why it's not a fulfilled prophecy.
So then why would Jesus quote it in Luke?
This is talking about the guy who tells the story in Isaiah 61:1.
But what?
That is the guy who's telling the story.
Why would Jesus say in verse
Not even
21?
necessarily the guy who's writing it down, because that's probably a scribe.
Okay, but why would Jesus say in Luke 4 verse 21?
It doesn't speak about a person in the future. It is 100% clear that it's talking about a person who is telling the story.
Then why does Jesus say in verse 21 of Luke 4 that this prophecy has been fulfilled in your hearing in regards to that text, if it's not about him?
I don't know, because there's no prophecy.
So you're not sure why Jesus said that?
Which is why I asked you what the prophecy. I asked you what the prophecy was. So here, let me simplify it for you. If in Isaiah 61 there would be a prophecy, then it would talk about a specific person who would read this part on a certain occasion at a certain place.
That would have been more helpful.
At least that would narrow it down to one. That would narrow it down to one specific person.
Okay.
It does no such thing.
So it's too ambiguous, is what you're saying.
It's not a prophecy.
So you're saying
if I'm going to tell you, Rob, no, hold on. If I'm going to tell you, Rob, it's going to hold on. If I'm going to tell you, Rob, it's going to rain in Canada over the next 2 days. Is that a prophecy, or is that something that probably will happen but is not clear enough?
Well, the latter.
Exactly. Thank you for being honest.
Oh. It's probably raining in
If
Vancouver.
I were to say, Rob, it will rain where you are, it will rain where you are at next Thursday at 4 p.m., that would be a prophecy.
Oh, yeah.
Because that would be specific, and you would be able to check it. This isn't even close to being specific.
Okay.
It's not a prophecy. It's vague. You can take it just the way you want it, and you could have several people fulfill this, because it doesn't name a place, it doesn't name a person, it doesn't name a specific occasion, it doesn't name a building, it names nothing.
So it's too ambiguous, too unclear.
Yes, it's far too vague to be a prophecy.
Okay, I got one more for you, Peter, from Isaiah.
You, by your own standards, just said that if I were to make a prophecy like this, you wouldn't accept it as being a prophecy. That was your honest answer, and
That's
I
true.
commend you for
you're right.
giving me that
it'd be
honest answer.
too ambiguous.
Because that's you being honest.
Yeah, it would be too ambiguous for me to accept in the face of it. On its own, yes, that would be too ambiguous.
Exactly, and this in the Bible is too ambiguous for me to accept it.
Okay, I got one more.
It
for
should
you,
be too
Peter.
ambiguous for anyone to accept it.
I got one more for you.
Go ahead.
Isaiah 53.
Hold on. Isaiah 53.
It's only 12 verses.
Let me follow along.
I'll give you time. Tell me when you're there.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to get the verses.
Yeah, it's all 12
Isaiah
verses.
53, 1?
1 to 12. It's only 12 verses. It's a pretty short chapter.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot and like a root out of dry ground. He had no stately form or majesty to attract us, no beauty that we should desire him. Hold on. I wish I could get the entire chapter. No beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took on our infirmities and carried out our sorrows, yet we considered him stricken by God, struck down and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. This is already ruling out Jesus, but I'll continue. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each one has turned his own way, and the Lord has laid upon him the iniquity of us all. We can go back because Christ was never crushed. He was crucified, and then someone stuck a spear in his side to check whether or not he was dead. So when you say pierced, okay, if you take a very big leap, you could get pierced. Jesus was never crushed. So that rules out Jesus right there. Unless you think that he wasn't crucified, but he was somehow crushed between two rocks, or what happened to Jesus? Where was he crushed?
He was crushed by God. Spiritually, he was crushed.
No, he wasn't. Because if this was God's plan, everything happened according to God's plan, right?
Yeah.
So he wasn't
I didn't say
crushed
it wasn't
by God.
God's plan.
He was just, and he also couldn't have been spiritually crushed, because if Jesus is God and God is Jesus, then he couldn't crush himself.
Well, he didn't. The Father did.
That wouldn't be possible.
God is triune, though, Peter.
But he wasn't crushed. He wasn't crushed. It doesn't say that he would be crushed spiritually.
No, but there's more than
It
way.
said
One,
he
there's more than way.
would be
I can
crushed.
be crushed in my spirit too, though, can't I? I can be. I can.
Yeah, you can read things into the text that aren't there, but I prefer not to. I prefer to take the text, because that's probably what they want us to think.
So you think that only
And
a
not
person? So you really
putting
think
more
that
words
a
into
person
it.
can only be crushed physically? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that there's only one way to crush a person.
No, that's not
I'm
my
saying
question.
that
My
there's
question is: do
only
you think it's
one
only
way to
possible to
read
be
this
crushed
text.
physically? That's my question.
Yes.
Why do you think that's the only possible way for a person to be crushed?
Because I don't think that there's any spirituality. I don't believe in spirituality.
What about
Spirits
emotionally?
are
Or
not real.
psychologically? Can you be crushed
Unless
emotionally
we're
or
talking about
psychologically? Or mentally?
That's a play on words, but that would be possible.
Okay.
But then, if that were the case, it would have been mentioned here,
Yeah, that would have been helpful.
because that's important, right?
That would have been like the Bible according to Peter.
It would. It would have been important if it
would have been
said
helpful.
whether
It
or
would have
not
been
he was crushed bodily or whether he was crushed emotionally. Those are two completely different things, because you can survive one, but you can't survive the other, right? So it would be very important to be specific here. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, so that's another prophecy that didn't work. And we can go through all of them because I already have, and I know that there's not a single prophecy that Jesus fulfilled. Not a, or it wasn't referring to Jesus, or Jesus didn't fulfill it.
Mm.
And this is what happens when you read the Bible and you actually try to read it comprehensively and try to figure out whether or not the thing makes sense. And it doesn't. These were gullible people who were shoehorning in things after the fact. Some of the prophecies were written after the fulfillment happened.
Mm.
And we know this for a fact because we can date when the things were written. It doesn't work. And still, even if all of this worked, then we still don't have a shred of evidence that there is a God. Because people can write really compelling stories. Just read the books of Harry Potter. There are prophecies in those books who get fulfilled, and prophecies who are really specific. Leave no room for other things to happen. I mean, people can write books. I get that. The Bible is a book, or so now you've got something to think about.
I always have something to think about.
You could brush it off, or you could check, or you could try and figure out whether or not I'm wrong. And I would prefer you do the latter.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see you prove me wrong.
Mm.
Because you'd be the first one. And you think I don't care about that. And that's actually what I do care about. I wish that if I make a claim that you would check up whether or not I was telling you the truth. And if I'm not, you need to confront me with that. And you need to show me the evidence that I was wrong. I won't get mad at you. We won't fight, and I won't call you names, and I won't be silly, and I won't be lashing out on Twitter after the conversation. Because this, Rob, is the first conversation that I've had with you that is a good conversation. And you've been honest. Also, the first time that I caught you on a real so let's cut it from here and pick up at a later date, or you can go check. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Did you have a good conversation?
Did you?
Yes.
Great.
This is the first conversation I've had with you. I said that just now. This is the first conversation I've had with you, which I think is a really good conversation.
What made it
I
good
really
in your
liked
mind?
having had this conversation. So thank you for that.
What made it good in your mind, Peter?
Because you were honest.
I'm always honest.
You didn't deflect. You did not deflect one single time. Yes, but you didn't deflect, and you didn't try to change the subject. And that's what I like, because if we are going to have a conversation, we need to have a decent conversation.
Well, indeed.
This was the first time where you actually had that
ironically,
conversation.
God is making me wiser and more mature lately.
I think the atheists are making you wiser by asking
But, I
you
don't-
questions
but
and
Peter, I
forcing
don't
you.
talk. I talk to you and Kim
forcing
maybe
you-
twice a week. I mean, I think that's a bit of a
I've seen the
straw man
conversation
considering
you've
how
had
little I
with
talk
Kim.
to you guys.
Kim always shoots me a link.
Okay, well, I don't talk
No.
to Kim that often.
I know you talk to atheists,
Atheists generally,
Yeah.
but I don't
And
talk
I
to
think-
atheists that often.
well, you should.
No, they're not all knowing.
I'm not saying they're all knowing, but if what you think you have is the truth, then you should talk to people who haven't accepted that truth yet.
Yeah, but
Talking to people who already think the same way you do
that's
is a waste
confirmation
of time.
bias.
Exactly.
But I'm not interested in confirmation bias. I'm interested in the truth.
Neither am I, which is why I always talk. People have asked me, why don't you get more atheists on your show?
Mm.
Why? I already know what they think.
Mhm.
If I have an atheist on my show, it's because of a specific topic
Mm.
that is specific to one of them,
Yeah.
and not something that we already all agree on, because
Yeah.
I don't need to talk about that.
Well, anyways, we're talking to a mirror at some point.
But this was a good conversation, Rob, really, and I want to thank you for jumping on and having this conversation. Think about it, and then we'll have a conversation in a couple of days.
Sounds good, man. All right, ciao.
Okay.